On Sunday evening, we gathered back together again and really continued a line of thought that we were on last week when we talked so much about pornography. And we talked about technical virginity, was kind of the way that we worded it. But really all of the things that are sex but not really sex. Things like oral sex, things like masturbation, things like sexting, outlets that are out there that kids tend to use, and adults as well, as kind of sort of a pharisaical line of demarcation that says, well, technically I didn't have sex with somebody. And in reality, those things certainly are no better than having sexual intercourse with somebody. So we want to talk about all of those things that kind of fall into that category. We start with Romans chapter 12, verses 1 and 2, which is familiar to a lot of people. It says, "Therefore I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your true and proper worship. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." The points he made here was, one, Paul says that our bodies are our sacrifices to God. That we talked about the ancient sacrificial system and the idea that a sacrifice was something that you owned, that was of value to you, and that you gave up for God's service. And our bodies are those things under the covenant that we're in Christ Jesus. And so, parents, you have to help your kids to drastically change the way that they think, because the pattern of the world around them is to pursue as much sexuality as quickly and as far as possible, and to assume that there is nothing that is really off limits in sexuality as long as you're enjoying yourselves. That's the pattern of the world, and it's absolutely everywhere. The other part of that last part where it says you will be able to test and prove what God's will is, one of the things that I keep bringing up with our kids is that as we have discussions, Christina and I, with a lot of our teens about their sexual struggles and about the temptation and the lust that they're struggling with, often kids will say, "I know, but it's just so hard to know what to do." And the question I always ask them is, really? Argument, of course, for all things that might fall into that camp of technical virginity, the argument for oral sex, the argument for masturbation, those kind of things, says that it's not really sex, that it's not really crossing that line, because technically I'm not doing that thing. And the obvious place to talk about that is somewhere like Matthew chapter 5, where Jesus says in verse 27, "You've heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery,' but I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to stumble, gouge it out and throw it away. It's better for you to lose part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to stumble, cut it off and throw it away. It's better for you to lose one part of your body for your whole body to go into hell." What that is that line is not real. The line that says, technically I didn't have sex with somebody and so I'm pure, that's not a true line. That line is a lie generated by Satan, generated frankly by our own desire to please ourselves. It says the real line is what happens inside of you, and that's what I'm really looking at. It also says very plainly when Jesus says, look, if you have a problem, you get rid of it. Okay? If your right eye causes you to stumble, you cut it out and you throw it away. If your hand causes you to stumble, you cut it off and you throw it away. And there's something in your life that's causing you to sin, you cut it out and you get rid of it, period. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 16, where Paul says, "Don't you know that you yourselves are God's temple and that God's Spirit lives in you? If anyone destroys God's temple, God will destroy him, for God's temple is sacred, and you are that temple." And again, just reminding our kids that your body and the body of the person that you're with is the temple of God, is what God created for his presence and his dwelling and his glory. The temple is the place where people came to know God, came to meet with God, and came to understand God better, and your body is that place. And if your body is not being used for that, then you are improperly using your body. And if you are using someone else's body for reasons other than that, you're improperly using their body.